All right. We'll go ahead and kick things off so we have lots of time for discussion and questions at the end. So, welcome everyone. This is the April meeting of the Earth Comms cluster for ESIP. We are sort of a diverse group of practitioners in the communications and marketing space with a wide variety of organizations and institutions who work with Earth data. So we meet monthly, and each month we sort of rotate between either like focusing on a specific topic. In this case, we're having a guest speaker talk to us about a particular topic. And then we also have rotate to sort of like group discussions or open discussions of things where we kind of share amongst each other about things that we're learning and doing, and sort of get opportunities for feedback and questions amongst each other, so we can kind of support each other in our journeys of doing comms in the Earth data sphere. So excited to have everyone here. Our guest speaker today is Daniel Mail from Mariner 11. I'll just briefly share a little bit about Dan, and then we'll jump into his presentation, because I want to make sure we have lots of time to ask questions and pick his brain afterwards. So Dan has over 15 years of marketing experience, specializing in strategy, search marketing, paid media, and data analytics. He launched Mariner 11 last year in partnership with Francesca, who I think is on the call also. And prior to doing that, he worked in search marketing and analytics for a number of very large brand name companies, and he's based in Colorado. So I don't know, Dan, if you want to add anything else to that, but why don't you go ahead and kick things
Yeah.
off?
Yeah. No, that was a great intro. I don't think there's anything that I have to add except for just to thank you all for having me, and I'm really excited to be here. Um, yeah, as was mentioned, I'm one of the co-founders of Mariner 11, along with my partner Francesca Furchgott. Um, and I have been in the SEO space for basically my entire career, along with lots of other marketing disciplines, but SEO has been at the core of what I've been up to. And over the last 2 years, I've been helping clients navigate the disruption that AI has made on the SEO space and the digital marketing world at large. So today I'm going to be talking about GEO, which stands for Generative Engine Optimization, also colloquially known as answer engine optimization or AI search, and we're going to be talking about what organizations in the earth science field need to know about it. If you could save your questions till the end, that will be great. We'll definitely leave plenty of time for Q&A, and I'd love to hear from you. But with that, I will dive in. Just quickly introducing Mariner 11 and why we're here and what we do. So Mariner 11, we are a brand marketing agency for ambitious businesses ready to scale. We founded last year, and it is the merger between my previous consulting practice and my partner Francesca's. So we work with businesses that are really looking to grow. Commonly, these are small and mid-sized businesses. From a services standpoint, we do branding, SEO, GEO, content marketing, social media, paid media, PR, and web strategy. We do specialize across a number of industries, including construction and home, e-commerce, higher ed, and geospatial and earth sciences is also a core industry target of ours. Within that field, we have supported Development Seed, Arboretica, and Thrive GEO across numerous marketing efforts. So just to introduce us and kind of set the stage a little bit about who I am, who we are. And now we'll talk about search and AI. So, um, the world of search has changed, as many of you guys know and have realized. But your organization's work has never been more important. However, the way that people find that work is changing fast, and most organizations, particularly in some kind of legacy sectors, particularly in the science space, have not yet caught up yet. So, what I'm going to be talking to you guys about today is what is SEO and why does it still matter? What is GEO and why should you care? And what can your organization actually do about both? Some of these concepts will probably be pretty uh, you know, uh, you may have already heard of a lot of this, especially if you're in the digital marketing space. And so, apologies if you know some of what we're talking about, but some of what I'm going to cover is also more on the sophisticated and tactical side. And so, hopefully, you're able to learn a thing or two, and this will be a good mix of some kind of fundamental 101 stuff as well as really our POV for the earth sciences space as well. Okay, so what is SEO? Why does it still matter? SEO, which stands for search engine optimization, is the practice of making your content findable by search engines as well as the people who use them. There are three kind of key pillars to SEO. There's technical SEO, which is basically making sure that machines, search engines, can find, read, and understand your site easily. Then there's content SEO and what your content says. And that's basically making sure that you have high quality web content that matches what people actually search for, right? That matches the need of hand raisers. And then there's your brand mentions, also known as offsite SEO or external SEO. And that's, do authoritative sources reference you? Do they link to you? Do they mention your brand? So why does this matter? Search engines direct the vast majority of organic, non-paid web traffic across the web, right? They are basically that directory that helps people find sources of information that they're looking for. And for B2B organizations, that traffic is really your top of funnel that builds your entire marketing funnel, or that is plays a huge piece in building that entire marketing funnel. For earth science organizations specifically, procurement leads search for vendors by capability and geography, right? Academic and government decision makers still very often start with Google when trying to find solutions. And strong SEO still does get you in the room before first contacted by those prospects. And good SEO is really the foundation that everything else is built on. And as we'll learn, it's the foundation that AI search and GEO is built on. But search has changed. It used to be the case that over 90% of searches in the United States and Europe, particularly, took place on Google. In China, that Baidu had which is the primary search engine in China, had over 90%, right? Yandex as the big search engine in, in Russia, and then there's Yahoo Japan, et cetera, et cetera. Lots of search engines. But basically, search engine used to dominate the desktop information research landscape. Now, however, 58% of users have partially replaced traditional search with AI tools for discovery. 23 words is the average AI search query when going to ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, etc., versus 4 words just for Google. And 73% of B2B buyers report using AI tools at some point during the research process. So you've already been writing as content creators, you've already been writing for one machine, which is Google, but now there are two, right? There's search engines and AI engines as a way to find and distribute content amongst prospects. AI hasn't fundamentally changed content marketing, but now you need to take a second type of machine into account for your writing and optimization efforts. But most people still use Google to some degree. Okay. 16.4 billion searches take place worldwide per day is the latest figure there. 95% of Americans still use traditional search for some research. Not everybody and not for all of their research, but still very heavily used. And while Google often displays an answer to a search directly as an AI overview, and I'll show you what an AI overview looks like in a minute, though you guys are probably pretty familiar, it is estimated that between 40 to 60% of search results do not show an AI overview and instead still display the regular search results that we're all used to. But for Google, the question isn't just where do I rank like it used to be. One study shows that 59% of US Google searches end without a click because they get the answer right from AI and don't care to go to the original source. Right? And this screenshot here is an example of an AI overview. Somebody's asking a question, and Google's AI that's powered by Gemini is basically displaying an answer here. And what's not shown is a whole right-hand sidebar of other sources, etc. So oftentimes people are getting the answer in what's called a zero-click environment. So the new question becomes, where does ranking still matter? And where ranking does not matter because of AI results, where does AI cite me when my customers ask the right questions? And this has led to a lot of websites losing a lot of traffic from organic search because of that zero-click environment. But some industries have been more affected than others. The data that we're looking at here is from a B2B e-commerce company, okay? And it's basically showing impressions, which is the blue line, and clicks, which is the yellow gold line, from from specifically Google organic search, right? And this is looking at a year and a half time horizon from September 2024 through January 2026. And as you can see, impressions, the blue, has gone up tremendously. And that's due to a combination of more people actually searching for the products in this particular category, right? So demand is on the rise. Their rankings for their content has improved, right? The SEO that they've done has actually led to higher rankings in Google search results, right? All typically good things. And previously, impressions would almost always be a one-to-one perfect correlation to clicks in a space like this. However, that's not what we're seeing. As impressions has risen, clicks have decreased, right? So even though demand has increased for this brand, their traffic has decreased, and it is mostly due to AI overviews and the cascading effect from AI overviews, right? So even though Google is showing them in search results, people actually aren't clicking on them anymore because the natural search results, A, are being really pushed far down below AI overviews and now below sponsored links. And also, people are just often getting the answers that they're looking for from AI overviews, and they may not be visiting those informational those sites anymore, even when they are e-commerce, retail, commercial sites. And so stories like these actually lead to a common misconception, and that misconception is that SEO is dead. But that is in fact a misconception. Good SEO is the prerequisite for GEO. The death of SEO narrative can sometimes be overstated. The fundamentals have actually never been more important. And really, what this is all about is you're not starting over, you're building on what you have already. Every article cited by ChatGPT or other AI agents also ranks, or at some point has ranked well on Google. The tactics that make AI platforms cite your content are the same tactics that make Google rank it. And even though, yes, a lot of websites are losing organic traffic and gaining visibility in AI search, strong SEO is really table stakes for AI visibility. And the foundational elements to SEO are technical SEO, your content, and brand mentions. And those are also the building blocks of GEO. but there are a handful of meaningful differences. So, what is GEO and why should you care? GEO, again, stands for Generative Engine Optimization, um, also known as AEO or Answer Engine Optimization, AI search. Some people will debate that there's slight differences between those two or three definitions, but colloquially, for most people, they're kind of all the same. We haven't really, as an industry, settled on a name yet. But it's basically the practice of optimizing content so it is visible, referenced, and cited within AI generated answers. And so the goal as a brand, the goal as a marketer, is to become a source that AI turns to when your prospects and customers ask questions that you should own. In other words, when they ask questions you're hoping they would ask you and to which you have great answers. So while GEO competes for citations in the AI in AI results, SEO competes for clicks, where the objective of GEO is to get cited in the AI's answer. The primary objective for SEO is to rank number one on Google or rank competitively in the top few results for Google. And GEO is really good at increasing brand awareness, and it may drive site traffic, but that can be somewhat more challenging to measure. SEO drives traffic directly to your site. Okay, so how do these AI answer engines work? AI search engines use a process called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, to answer questions. This is a three-step process. Step one, retrieval, step two, augmentation, and step three, generation. Without the RAG process, an AI tool only has its training data from its model to rely on. But there's two problems with that if an AI was just providing you answers with only its training data. Problem number one is its training data may not have accurate sources of information to answer the user's question. And even if it does have sufficient and accurate source of information, that information is often out of date because the model is not always getting updated as fast as news and new data is coming into the public sphere. So, to correct for this, AI agents have to augment its data with more and accurate information. So, step one for the retrieval process, what basically happens is an AI searches an index of web content that's also known as a data store that is outside of the model it's been trained on to find documents matching the query. Then it augments that data. The retrieved data is passed into the model as context alongside the user's question. And so it's this kind of mixing and matching of augmented data and training data. And then an LLM or a large language model synthesizes the retrieved information and selects which sources to cite and then generates text copy for you answering your question. And so, in other words, without the RAG process, asking an LLM a question would be like asking a very smart friend of yours a question in conversation, and he or she may know the answer, but if they're uncertain, they're going to have to guess from memory, make up an answer, or tell you, I don't know. And so, to get you the most accurate answer, they would actually have to retrieve reliable, up to date information via research and augment it with their own knowledge to generate an answer for you. And that is basically how these AI agents work. And that step of retrieving documents from the data store, aka the internet, of which your website or your YouTube content is a part, that is why it's so important to be having great content to optimize for these AI engines, because that's basically how they augment their training data and provide all of us with useful research that we're interested in. So, what are the key GEO principles? There's kind of four main principles. Number one, there's answering the question in the first sentence or very quickly at the top of the page of your content. Um, and so you really don't want to bury the lead when you're talking about content optimization, right? And that content that's in the data store that LLMs retrieve. So think of the opposite of online recipes where you'd have to scroll for half an hour to basically find the recipe or find the hidden drop down link just to get to the recipe, right? We don't want to do that. AI models prioritize content that leads with direct answers and clear answers. Structuring relevant pages in the sort of question or query format, then answer, and then supporting detail in a structured, clean way, the way people generally like to consume content. That is kind of what we mean by answer first content that AI tools really appreciate. Number two, AI tools love to generate facts as data and statistics. So, especially for the earth sciences field, including accurate and specific statistics, figures, claims, wherever they're relevant, that can be very beneficial. Citing your data sources helps credibility to compound. Number three, AI tools also use authority signals such as other sites linking to your site and mentioning your brand. But they also want to ensure that the content you're producing is authoritative. So if your research content is using third-party sources, citing those sources properly, linking to them properly, and establishing author credentials can actually be crucial here. That makes you come off as a more authoritative source to AI agents. Additionally, adding author bios to things like blogs or articles, um, particularly if they have relevant expertise, that also can be helpful. And establishing you and the authors that work for your organization that represent you, establishing them as authorities. And last, AI agents have a preference towards structured and what we would call chunked content over large paragraphs of text. Um, for those of us, which is probably everyone that uses ChatGPT, you'll see all of their responses is super structured, a lot of numerical lists, a lot of sub bullets, sometimes different size fonts, different colors, certain things italicized. That's how they provide answers, and that's actually what they like to consume because it's just a little bit easier for them to get the gist of what your content says. So things like using FAQs, defining or and like paragraph definitions and numbered guides can help. Using clear primary and secondary headers, even tertiary headers on longer pieces of content, those are things that AI models read as heading structure. And then on the back end, there's something called schema markup, which is like little bits of code that can give engines more detail on the type of web content you're displaying. Most marketers and most people don't think about that. They don't need to know about that. But if you do work in the SEO, GEO space, or if you're a webmaster, that is pretty important too. Okay, so where does this net us out? AI has compressed the early research stage significantly. Rather than people using Google to find many different sources and people visiting many different websites individually, many people are just turning to AI answer engines to get their research, visiting far fewer websites. And so what that looks like is that it's reported 94% of B2B buyers have used LLMs in their purchase journey or are using LLMs in their purchase journey, specifically for B2B buyers and prospects. Five brands on average will capture 80% of AI citations in any B2B category. Those are the five brands that for that specific topic, that specific prompt, or sorry, topic, that specific prompt. Um, on average, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini is really just taking the five most authoritative and relevant brands, and citing those. Um, and 80% of the evaluation journey may be complete before first contact. Because AI tools are so good at synthesizing lots of information and doing it in, human first, easy to understand language, a lot of people will do most of their evaluation just in AI tools now. But AI is not suppressing demand, it's just changing how you get found. So, really, demand for Earth science data and the work that you guys do is accelerating. Satellites you put into space, the data that's collected, the platforms you license, governments, companies, organizations still need to pay you for your solutions, right? The business still has to get done. And AI tools can provide your prospects with mostly accurate, quick answers to very complicated questions as well as to basic questions. But as of now, that's kind of it. They're not replacing the exchange of goods and services in your sector, nor are they doing that really in any sector. And so for those answers that they are providing, they need your data. So what's the opportunity? Most organizations in this space have probably not yet started GEO. In specialized fields, being the organization that AI consistently cites as the authoritative source is really a durable and competitive advantage. First movers in niche B2B categories are capturing citation share before the competition knows it's a race. And specifically in the earth science, the life science category, it's a very high credibility, fairly low competition space right now in GEO. Academic rigor, government data partnerships, peer citations, all those are great for GEO. So, what GEO changes right now in the marketing space is really how organizations in this sector get found during vendor selection. And so, whether it's satellite data, atmospheric data, soil and land data, or whatever it is, your data and your research are exactly what AI tools are going to be retrieving to augment their models when people turn to them for research. And because it's in an AI's nature to cite its data sources, excuse me, your brand really has the opportunity to be one of those brands that is cited for relevant prompts. So let's look at a scenario. This is via Claude. A scenario where, say, a state agency procurement lead opens Claude and types which companies provide commercial SAR satellite data for coastal erosion monitoring in the Gulf Coast. So look at who appears in the response and look at maybe who doesn't. I don't know if anyone here is the SAT data space, but maybe some of you guys are here with us today. If so, congrats on being cited. But think about what would need to be true about your organization's presence to earn that citation, or to earn that citation for a similar prompt or a prompt that's relevant for your space, right? And it's what we talked about. Quality, data-rich content that makes it clear one of your core offerings is SAR satellite monitoring for coastal erosion, and being seen as an information authority in this space by peers in your industry. I also, somewhat separately, want you guys to notice one other thing. Notice how Claude is displaying different brands into topical clusters, right? Unlike Google, it's not just a binary choice between 10 blue links and some ads. Claude may mention commercial SAR companies first, but it also displays analytics providers and government programs. And there was other categories too that I couldn't show on the slide for space concerns. But this really represents a lot of opportunity and flexibility to get shown and helps to understand the way these AI agents think about classification and categorizing offerings into topics and subtopics. Okay, so that's a lot of what does the space look like and where's the so what? What should you guys be doing? So, first of all, setting expectations. What should you expect moving forward? Big picture is if your organic traffic has not yet been impacted, be prepared for it to be impacted. There's a very good chance that the iterative changing nature of search behavior and AI technology that will continue to impact the future in ways that we can't predict. We cannot predict where Google is going to show their AI overviews. We can't predict how the usage statistics of, AI engines when it comes to research. We don't know how many ads ChatGPT is going to be serving, and all of those ads are, going to maybe disrupt the way people turn to ChatGPT, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really about kind of preparing for both. Um, and specifically adjusting your content strategy to be optimized towards both of these engines, both of these machines, search engines and AI engines. And if we go back to the beginning where we talked about technical SEO as the foundation of your content as the next layer, brand mentions above that. I'm going to share key elements that you need to address within these categories, where GEO at the top of that, you're basically taking all the foundational elements that your websites have already been doing for years, layering it on to be optimized for GEO. So, what are the technical SEO fundamentals that you need to be considering? There's really there's hundreds of tiny technical elements, the way that sites are coded and set up, but like at a categorical level, there's really four main things. The first is that ensuring your site is crawlable by AI agents. Number two is making sure that your site navigation is clear for humans to navigate and for machines, search bots, AI bots to crawl, right? Um, the third is making sure that page load times are as fast as reasonably possible, especially on mobile. AI agents need to be able to access all of the content as well and understand what's in your images and videos and everything. And so page speed not just matters for usability and actual humans navigating and using your website, but also for agents. And then the fourth, it's as we talked about, that kind of behind the scenes schema markup and structured data on page templates. Okay, the content layer. How should you adjust your content strategy? So consider your existing content strategy right now. What is the purpose of your content, right? Making sure that you have that defined and you might need to revisit that definition. If the purpose is to drive traffic from new users, then you need to do a GEO audit to figure out what to write. But even if it's not to drive organic traffic or AI traffic, but it's maybe to provide value to existing site visitors or get cited in research papers and get found by target organizations, then at a minimum, you need to make sure that all of the content pieces in your website are meeting those technical requirements. And then secondarily, I would ask the question of how does my content strategy align to my business or organizational objectives? So if content is a big part of what you're trying to do as a business, that can tell you how much time, effort, and capital you need to invest in a possible shift, right? Where content marketing is a huge piece of what drives business, what drives leads, that's going to tell you that that has to be a bigger investment. If, blogging, articles, research reports, thought leadership is actually not that crucial to your organization, maybe you just need to be looking at some best practices here, but this isn't as crucial for you to do for organizational success. And so, more tactically, staying on content, but going a little bit of a layer deeper, what does well optimized content look like, right? In a nutshell, it is content that is written for people, but structured for AI agents. So as we talked about, right, it's content that answers a question immediately towards the top of the page. It's content that provides value to people, aka content that's just genuinely helpful, and again is like answering a question, right? It's serving a need. It's content that is mostly original. It doesn't have to be always 100% proprietary research all of the time, but you generally want to avoid a regurgitation of what's already out there. Proprietary data is particularly important for your field that might not be critical for other industries. And then this is a big one. It's a question we get all the time. And it's about content that is written by humans. You don't want to be publishing branded content that's written by AI. AI has gotten very good at detecting its own creation or the creation of its AI peers. And so while you can and should use AI for your content research, ideation, outlining, proofreading, you really do want it to have a human voice. And AI did just release an up, or I should say, the Google AI overview, and I think most other tools also just released an update where they are basically deprioritizing content that they suspect has been written by AI tools, which is somewhat ironic. But as of now, kind of the leading theory is that human written content is more likely to get cited than fully AI written content. And then in red, the structuring piece, right? It's what we talked about, schema markup, HTML markup, structured data, labeling sections and headers clearly, hierarchical structure, chunking content with lists, bullets, numerical lists, etc., where relevant, and putting tables anywhere where you have sort of data or can put data tables, comparative or relational data tables. That's also really good stuff for AI. So when we talk about brand mentions as that third layer, we're talking about earned media, reputable and trusted websites mentioning your brand and or linking to your site. AI engines really strongly favor authoritative third-party sources over brand-owned content. Right? If we go back to that RAG process, they're pulling data from a data store, and the ones they're most likely to pull are the ones where they think are the most authoritative. And so, really, for earth science organizations, this is actually very good news because the task is to make sure your website clearly connects to and references these authority signals. And AI can only cite what it can find and verify, and you want to create that trail. And because oftentimes organizations like yours are creating proprietary research, have a lot of verified data that is genuinely valuable to improve improve the world, solve problems that are facing Earth right now. You guys are a step ahead of, I would say, most other sectors in this particular space. So, some examples of high value authority signals for Earth science organizations are academic publications and journal citations, government data, portal listings, having your brand listed in conference presentations and abstracts for research papers. Um, Organizations like NASA, ESA, the NOAA, those partnership pages, many of them will link to or cite, link to your brand, cite your brand, mention your brand, even if they're not linking to your site, and industry directory listings in geospatial and environmental verticals. So these are all GEO gold. Many organizations, I'm sure on this call, already have citations and links from these organizations, and there's lots of things you can do, which I'm not going to get into this call on the tactics of citation building and link building, but that's a really big piece of historical SEO as well still as GEO or yeah, of GEO. So how do we measure success? How do we know what we're doing is working in the GEO space? There are two key performance indicators. One is relevant positive citations in LLMs and AI search results. There's a whole new industry of AI tracking tools that has popped up to do just this. Some of them are, Scrunch, SEMrush, Profound, Conductor. Those are solid options. There's many others, and they vary in price and features. And then number two, AI referred sessions to your website. That's, in other words, referral traffic, people clicking from AI agents directly to your website because they're recommending you. And setting up custom sources and custom tracking in Google Analytics, it's not as hard as it sounds, but you can track that and basically tracking referrals from every different AI agent and how that grows over time. So those are the two things that we would look at when we're trying to understand how our GEO program is performing over time. Here's a roadmap to get you started. This is definitely the most text heavy thing here. I don't know if this deck will go out or if anyone wants to take a screenshot of this, but here's basically what we would do, splitting this up into quick wins and then heavier lifts, right? So you would start by doing AI visibility audit to understand how you show up in AI, how your competition shows up. Then it's optimizing existing content, right, which is a lower lift than creating new content through the lenses that we talked about, answering a question, FAQ sections, making sure you have the right dates or up to date dates on your content. Some technical things like creating what's called a robots.txt file or ensuring that your robots.txt file isn't actually blocking AI agents from crawling your site because you do generally want them to crawl so that they can index your site. Other things you can do, you can audit your about page, any data products page, any cleared like data research page for just like AI slop textual jargon, and try to put some plain human language in there if that's something that you think your site may be a culprit of. And then super quickly adding author bios with credentials to key content pages. We talked about that before. Not only does that put credibility behind the author, that shows that there's actually a human that's writing the content and it's not just a big brand behind everything. Some heavier lifts, you can do some of the technical SEO foundational elements we talked about, right? Like page speed, site navigation, crawlability, etc. Adding some of that schema markup. Um, you could build out a kind of a section of your website that's who uses this data and why on the data product pages, right? And that very clearly illustrates a persona or a target job function or a target industry for who should use this data, and that will help AI know when to cite you for relevant prompts. You could create a structured FAQ page that answers your customers' most common procurement questions. Um, Not just refreshing Cornerstone content, but actually building new Cornerstone content for like your top 3 to 5 use cases and doing all of those content best practices. Generating links and brand mentions from reputable sources. That's again, that's super important. That does take a long time, or it can take a long time, but really has really strong sustainable impact. And then ongoing, just continuing SEO best practices and performance tracking. So in conclusion, 80% of what makes good SEO also makes good GEO. From about 2004 through 2022, it was right for humans, Google indexes it, and humans find you via search. Now it's right for humans, Google indexes it, and AI engines cite it, and humans find you through both pathways. And so you're not starting over, you're really building on what you already have. Okay. And that's all I got. But we have 15 minutes, I think, for Q&A. So thank you so much for your time and would love to hear your questions.
Wow. Thanks, Dan. That was really great. I already learned a bunch more than what I already knew about GEO and AI search. And I have lots more questions of how I'm gonna figure out how to apply some of that to my own stuff.
Awesome.
But we have a bunch of questions in the chat, so I don't know if you, now that we're out of presentation mode, do you want to just kind of like start at the top and see how many we can get through? Uh, maybe some of them,
Sure.
maybe some of you you answered along the way, but yeah.
Yeah. I see a question here. Are the slides available? Very happy to share slides. So that's yes. Um, Looks like Aman commented the chart implies some significance to the crossover point where impressions are now above clicks, but those are two different y-axes. A little misleading. Yeah, the it's not so much about the volume, right? The impressions are in the millions and the clicks are in the thousands. On that chart, I can see if I can pull it up here. Is that showing? Um, Yeah, so it's not so much comparative volume, it's really we're just looking at trends because this is a very unique trend where typically impressions and clicks are almost perfectly correlated or have historically been perfectly correlated. or near perfectly correlated, I should say, in the earned media space, organic search, and often they're very correlated to in paid media. But now there's this crossover point where there's an inverse correlation, which is very unique and very new. I hope that addressed that. Okay, looks like Amanda says one thing we've been struggling with is how to measure AI citations, as it seems like most tools to do this are subscription based. Do you have any recommendation for free or low cost tools to assess how much or how often your content is being cited, especially as we start benchmarking this against declines in web traffic? Um, I don't have any recommendations on free tools. I do know there are some cheaper tools that, will you could cost you $100 a month or something like that. Um, yeah, I'm sure there probably are tools that have you can do like a quick cursory glance. I know SEMrush, there's like you can look for free and they'll give you a little bit of data. But generally, if this is important to your business, I think like Profound has a $99 starter kit, and that'll give you basic information, $99 a month. SEMrush, I think maybe their lowest package also is 99, 100, $150 a month. So um, that's the low cost version that I would recommend. Um, okay, let's see here. I have a lot of questions from Aman and Amanda. Yeah, so I'll just go to the next one. I feel like there are a lot of tools and plus plugins to help assess SEO score and how well you've done to make content ideal for search engines. But do you have any recommendation for similar AI tools for how to assess how well your content is optimized? Yeah. So some of the AI tools are better than this at others, but basically what all of the AI tools are trying to do is they're trying to give you observational data, right? What prompts your content's ranking for and where and who the competitors are. And then they're trying to give you recommendations. Um, they don't really, the bridge between an observation and recommendation is an insight, right? It's like the why behind the what. Most of them are not actually great at giving you the insights, but they will generally give you best practice recommendations for things that they find. And some of those recommendations are better than others. Um, but a lot of it is like very observe it's like anybody that could come up with those recommendations from reading the data. And so um, the tools that do it a little bit better, I think, are like Conductor and Scrunch and Profound. Those are what we might call enterprise GEO tools. Conductor was based in SEO and was one of the original enterprise SEO tools. So that's good. And they can kind of combine SEO and GEO. And some of them, they may have like managed service providers or customer success managers that will help you analyze your data and give you recommendations. But this is really where AI has not replaced humans. It's like in understanding what this means for my business and really understanding how relevant this is to my actual business needs and business problems and budget, et cetera. So it is really important to have a human behind what the data is saying, what the recommendations are to know if they're super cookie cutter and basic or if they're actually unique and insightful. Um, okay. Do you think the AI systems for GEO are reading website content from source code or as rendered? E.g., Markdown and static HTML might be easy to read versus data and tables rendered dynamically with JavaScript. Um, so great question. Um, I think they're generally reading it as source code, and search engines are as well. Um, but if there's an issue with the code, right, or if there's like sometimes text is embedded in images and none of the text is going to show up in an image, AI tools are now able to fully read what's in that image. So I think they generally go to the code because that's faster. They can generally read tables in JavaScript. And so JavaScript is fine. Ajax and other forms of like rich media renderings have always been slightly more problematic, but I think the technology is so good that it probably doesn't matter. but generally what they prefer is still text as coded in HTML, and then they ignore the CSS and sift through the JavaScript. Hope that answered that question. But if we have more time, I know that was a technical one. Happy to discuss more. Okay, I see another question. This might be the last one in here, unless I missed one. Could you also explain the difference between AEO and GEO? We've been discussing AEO a lot internally, but I'd love to better understand the distinction. Yeah. So I kind of glossed over this. I tried to touch on it. I glossed over it a little bit. I think again, most people use these interchangeably. I think the industry uses these interchangeably. But if the difference to be had, if there is one amongst the distinction between the two, it would be in this. Answer engine optimization is just an engine that provides you answers, right? So, or rather, an answer engine is just an engine that provides you answers. Think of AI overviews, right? Google's AI overviews as an answer engine. And so optimizing for answer engine would be optimizing for AI overviews. Generative engine optimization is really for Gen AI that generates something, which is basically just content, images, and videos, right? And so that would be optimizing for your Claudes and Perplexities and Geminis and ChatGPT, et cetera, because they're generating a response. But the reason why most of these are colloquially are interchanged is because most people are going like when they put in a prompt and they just want an answer, they're actually going to Gen AI engines, and those Gen AI engines, like a ChatGPT, is generating a response. Even though you're using it for Q&A, you're not necessarily in particular in the case of research, you're not using it to generate an asset like a video or an image. You're actually just looking at to generate a response. So that's what I would say is like the nuance difference there. Let's see. Did I miss any questions
I think that was all the ones from the
from
chat, but
chat?
if anyone
Okay.
else has other like burning questions in the last couple minutes, feel
Yeah,
free to
please.
jump in.
Allison, you are welcome.
Yeah, it was great. I definitely took a screenshot of the what to do next, but we can share the slides in our Slack channel if people want to look back at those. And we have this recording. Um, I think, first of all, thanks, Dan, for taking the time to walk us through all of that. Really appreciate it. There's some new faces on the call here, so I just wanted to invite you. We have our May meeting next month on May 15th, and that's going to be what we call like an open floor discussion where we all kind of like just group share. And I think the topic, based on my notes, is we're going to be talking about email and newsletter comms type things. So if anyone wants to join us for that discussion, that would be great to see some more of you again. Um, yeah, thanks, Dan. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Zoe, for hosting. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your Friday.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kiri, for facilitating and Zoe for hosting and for all of your time and attention. And anyone has any questions or needs help or just wants to chit chat about GEO, you can always reach out to me. My email is daniel@mariner11.com, and I'm sure Kiri can get this sent out to everybody if in case anyone wants to chat. So thanks so much. Yeah, perfect.
Thanks, everyone.